I'm Jim Benson, and you're listening to TV Time Machine. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and visit our show archives at tvtimemachine.com.
Nerds have been harassed, teased, and left out. But in a stunning reversal, the rise of technology has brought with it the rise of the nerd.
Today on the TV Time Machine, we break out our pocket protector as we crown King of the Nerds. In this edition of our program, we are pleased to welcome Curtis Armstrong and Robert Carradine of the hit competition series King of the Nerds. Mr. Armstrong has appeared in the classic series Moonlighting, and Mr. Carradine is probably best known for starring in the Revenge of the Nerds movies of the 1980s. Over the next segment, Curtis Armstrong and Robert Carradine will help us explore virtually every aspect of this nerdy series, which airs Thursdays at 10 p.m. on TBS. Again, for those of you intrepid enough to geek out with us, feel free to put masking tape on your glasses as we move out of our parents' basement of the past to rule the world in the present. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on board the TV Time Machine.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks, Jim. Happy to be here.
Now, your hit series King of the Nerds returns for a second season Thursday, January 23rd at 10 p.m. on TBS. Now, Curtis, for folks who might be tuning in for the first time, tell us what King of the Nerds is all about.
Well, it's a competition reality show, but it has a pretty strong overlay of comedy. This is partially because when Robert and I came up with the idea for this show, we were thinking of it in terms of Revenge of the Nerds, the film that we did together back in 1984. We thought it would be fun to bring that to the reality television world, in a manner of speaking. So there is definitely an overlay of comedy here. And it's a group of nerds who are living in a house for 8 weeks and competing against each other for the crown.
Now, Robert, without revealing too much, what new things are going to happen in this new season?
Well, the challenges have been tweaked to be nerdier.
Okay.
And we are allowed to reveal that one of them, we put our nerds into a video game, like the movie Tron. And we have another high point for you, which is robot dodgeball. And we have our nerds, we give them 24 hours to build robots from scratch, which is an amazing episode to see these geniuses go at it tooth and nail and get into the Radio Shack lab for their supplies and come up with these incredible robots. These are two episodes that are not to be missed, for sure.
Now, obviously, that's the kind of thing that would be found in Nerdvana. Curtis, tell us about Nerdvana, and what are the elements that make it the nerd heaven that it is?
Well, Nerdvana is the house in which they live, and it is completely decorated with nerd and stocked with the kind of toys and art and everything that nerds respond to. This place is filled with it. It's got superheroes, and it's got the works. And for a nerd to walk into this environment and see that for the next month or more, all of this is going to be theirs, is like, children in a candy store. It's amazing to see them do it. So it's a phenomenal place. This year we actually moved our Nerdvana into a bigger place. It looks more spectacular than it did in the first season. And it's definitely nerdier. And unquestionably nerdier.
Wow. Well, that's definitely going to be a highlight. Now, are nerds any less competitive than any other folk?
Oh, no. If anything, they're more competitive. Because, you get that many geniuses living together, and they really want to prevail. Yeah. And it's not from an ego standpoint. It's just from, survival of the fittest. A lot of them feel really proud. They all feel really proud, or they wouldn't be there. Right. Feel proud of their nerdiness. They feel proud to be nerds. And they want to the extent that they can, represent nerd culture in a positive way, which is one of the nice things also about the show. It happened last year and this year, is that they want to send out a positive image as well, and it means a lot to people, to the nerds who watch the show, to see see good sort of nerd role models out there.
Yes, what are the qualities that nerds possess that make them so extraordinary?
Well, it's their ability to focus and just their single-minded pursuit of excellence in their area of expertise. They just, I don't know, it's like looking at a lion go after prey. They don't stop until they get to the goal. And it's fascinating, and sometimes it's hilarious to watch.
There's also a lack of sort of aggressive ego. I mean, it's not to say that they're not aggressive competitors, but there tends to be, these are people who tend to have been on the outskirts their whole lives. I mean, a lot of you who are listening, you know who you are. You were picked on in high school, you were picked on in elementary school, you were picked on in middle school, and, you know, these are people who spent their lives, outside of the mainstream of the people, their own society. And when they come into this environment, they are with people with whom they're competing, but they're the people who have the same, interests and degree of passion for their nerd interests as everyone else. So there's a very strong connection, and it's one of the things that makes the show unique.
Yeah, I think one of the things they have in common, I think you alluded to it, is it's sort of them against the world, even now. Do you find that's the case? Or have things changed so much that nerds are now completely accepted? Or is there still some residual condescension?
Well,
great question.
I think they're accepted, and, they're even embraced. And as a subculture, it's been raised to everyday occurrences like using the nerd image in advertising, and it's actually cool now to be a nerd.
Nevertheless, I think there will always be some residual resentment. People will always feel like nerds know everything, and nerds are smarter and all that. So there's a degree of some resentment possibly in the larger culture. But at the same time, the larger culture is becoming more nerdy themselves, so that people who go to Comic-Con now may not be nerds, but they still go to Comic-Con, which used to be the domain strictly of nerds. So everything has changed a lot in the last 30 years.
Well, speaking of changes, what does it say about nerddom that last season the top 3 finalists were women?
Interesting, wasn't it? We loved that. I mean, that was one of the things that Robert and I agreed to at the very beginning. When we were pitching the show, we said we wanted to make sure that there was rough parity between genders on the show, because we knew that women are just as nerdy as men, and as you
certainly as competitive.
Certainly as competitive, and as you saw in the first season, and you will see in the second season, they are relentless competitors and really brilliant. So we're very proud of the fact that out of our last 4 competitors last season, 3 were women.
Yes, and of course the winner was Celeste. What attributes did she possess that enabled her to become king or queen of the nerds?
Well, she first came in as a professional cuber, Rubik's cuber, and her real expertise last season was to basically sidestep these sort of side skirmishes, and she
was a powerful strategist.
Exactly. I mean, she found a way to walk the line so that the spotlight was never quite on her, and she just avoided getting caught up in the nerd-offs, for example.
Right.
And she
was amazing. I mean, she was a dark horse. I mean, and I think a lot of people were it was a controversial thing because she was such a good strategist. She almost was under the radar the whole time, and suddenly she won. But she was pretty amazing, and we loved Celeste.
Now, I understand that this season there's the People's Nerd. What is that, and what is the People's Nerd credentials?
Well, the People's Nerd was selected through an internet competition where people would vote for who they thought should be on the show. And our selectee, his handle on the internet is JWitz. But Josh is he's just a fantastic nerd and one of the center points and high points of this season.
Yeah, it was really because there was, after the first season, there was a groundswell of support for the show on the internet, with people making suggestions about who should be on the next season. And we didn't want it. What we decided was we would pick 10 of the 11, and the 11th would be picked by the people on the internet. And he was the one who got more votes than anyone else. Yeah, actually, he competed with two others. We were presented with 3 finalists, and we wound up picking Jaywick.
Oh, that's great. So speaking of the internet, where can people find out more about yourselves and King of the Nerds online?
Well, you go to tbs.com/King of the Nerds, and there's some video there that you can watch, and there's also a store where you can buy mugs and T-shirts and stuff. Yeah, that's the place to go.
TBS.com. And you can follow us on Twitter and
Facebook.
All of that through the TBS website.
Great. Curtis Armstrong and Robert Carradine of King of the Nerds, whose season premiere airs Thursday, January 23rd at 10 p.m. on TBS. Gentlemen, it's been a tremendous pleasure having you aboard the TV Time Machine. Feel free to join us again in the future or in the past.
Thanks, Jim.